Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online character build video with me, Sherman, and by request, another one for you guys. Somebody asked me, before I do my intro and everything, somebody asked me, well, do you ever sleep? Yeah, I sleep. I sleep a lot, actually. When I'm not sleeping, this is what I've been working on. I haven't even been playing the game really, so I've been mostly focused on doing this stuff for you guys because it's been so much fun. But let's go ahead and get started. So today, I bring you guys a requested build from somebody a while back who asked me if I ever used a certain set within a build idea. And I looked at the set, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I kept trying to figure out how can I make this set something that can work within an idea in this game. So that the Black Knight was born, and the Black Knight is basically based on the old mythology of the Black Knight that if you guys didn't know, was somebody who terrorized the countryside of Europe and was basically like the best swordsman ever. So I kind of took that concept and played off of it and made this character. So hope you guys like it. Hope you guys enjoy it. And to the person who gave me the suggestion on using this particular set in this build, yeah, I didn't realize how good it could be. So it's actually quite good. Now, this build is primarily made for PvE. It can play in PvP really well, and you guys will see why here in a second. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Black Knight. We are an Imperial Necromancer with this, and as you can see, we have 64 points in health. This gives us 19k magicka, 39k health, 24k stamina. Our resource management kind of sucks, it looks like it, but trust me, this thing has no resource issues whatsoever. It's actually quite well. Weapon damage is coming in 24, 26, 28% weapon critical. But that's not why this build works the way it does. It's not because of high weapon damage or weapon critical. You guys will see why it works the way it does. We do have 24 into spell resist, 24 into physical resist. We are using the Lady Mundus Stone to boost our resistances a little bit more. And we are using Tri-Stat food. So, moving on to the gear. We have tripods also for when we need resources when we're tanking. When we're playing more damage based, we do focus with the warrior power pots, and if we do want to play healer, you can. It's not going to be the greatest, not gonna lie, but you can, and you can use the spell power pots. And then long fin pasty and melon sauce is going to be the food of choice with this. I have tried other food options like Dubious Cameron Throne and all that stuff. You can do that with this particular setup, as long as you're an Imperial. If you try any other combination of race, class, all that stuff, like a race, sorry, it just doesn't work as well. Alright, you guys can see now already the set that I've been talking about. So let's go ahead and talk about the sets. Starting with the monster set, and somebody's going to remind me of this, is a really hard set to get, but I'm going to tell you, if you use certain setups, it's an easy set to get. In fact, this setup here, plus another monster set, this thing, you could get it no problem. So, the first set we're using is Thorvikins. Thorvikins just fits the Necro so well. I don't know, but it does. It fits it really well. With the 1000 max health, and then when you take damage from a nearby enemy, you summon a growing pool of desecrated bile for 8 seconds. Enemies in the bile take 593 disease damage every second for 4 seconds. They also get minor maim and minor defile applied to them. So this is another way that you can apply damage and tank at the same time, plus do the minor maim, minor defile thing. It works out. Now, moving on to the next set. Of course, you guys can probably guess it. Yep, that's right, Hunting's Rage. Hunting's Rage gives you 2-piece weapon damage, 3-piece max stamina, 4-piece weapon damage, and then the 5-piece extra weapon damage. For this particular build, this works out really, really well. And it surprises me how well this build can play with this setup. So moving on now to the last and final set, Sloat's Semblance. This is a really unusual set, but when you look at it and you take pay very close attention to it, you can see why it can be so powerful in PvE and in PvP. First off, it gives you 2-piece magicka, 3 pieces max stam, 4-piece is weapon and spell damage. And then the 5-piece, damaging an enemy has a 10% chance to fire a Shadow Pearl at them, dealing X amount of Oblivion damage every second for 6 seconds. The Shadow Pearl cannot be reflected. The effect occurs every 6 seconds. So, if you have a nice amount of damage coming out of you, this will pretty much proc all the time. Okay? And because of that, this thing will do Oblivion damage non-stop. And I don't mean just a little bit, it does it non-stop. This thing is so ridiculously powered. Oblivion damage cannot be blocked, it can't be dodged, it can't be mitigated in any way, shape, or form. You have to soak this up. And as you can see, this does 1,074. With the 538 disease damage that this does, the only thing that's going to be able to withstand this is an Argonian, and that's because they can take the, they get reduced disease damage. But everything else is going to eat this stuff and die, like, really fast. So Sloat Simulants is a really, like I said, it's a really unusual set, because it's a crafted set. And it's crafted in Artaeum, where the Sigic Order is, in the Somerset chapter. So you have to have Somerset in order to craft the set. If you don't have Somerset, you can ask somebody who does to craft it for you. It might cost you a pretty penny, because you are going to have to get it made in the jewelry and the weapons and everything. But it is a really good thing. Alright, now moving on to the traits, excuse me. Moving on to the traits and the enchants on the gear. As you can see, the helm and legs are divines with the tri-stats, and the reason I went with divines is so I can actually take advantage of a little bit more crit capability for when I play stamina damage dealer. Then we have on the big piece, reinforced on the chest. This is to boost our resistances to a higher level. And then on the smaller pieces, we are using sturdy for block cost reduction. This is mainly for when we tank. Now, you can actually take advantage of this even when you're not tanking and you're using a two-handed weapon, or any weapon for that matter, to reduce your block cost. Alright, moving on to the jewelry. We have 2 Trirune Sloat rings with weapon damage. You guys should have guessed that too. But this really just helps to build out your weapon damage. The extra spell damage is really good for healing. That this gives you that little bit of extra for when you need heals and stuff like that. It just helps so much. Moving on to the necklace, we do have a shield plate necklace infused to help with our block cost and our bash cost reduction. Now, moving on to the sword and shield. The shield is sturdy, of course, with a tri-stat in it. This is to give us max stats. I need to go over the smaller pieces with stats, don't I, besides saying sturdy. So the belt and the shoulders are healthy. This is to maximize your health pool. And then the smaller ones are stamina, or the boots and gloves are stamina for the extra stamina pool. So, and then moving on to the weapon. Our first weapon is our main hand weapon. It is Nirnhoned with an absorbed stamina. The reason I do Nirnhoned here is because it does boost your weapon and spell damage. We do use a spell for healing on the front bar, and that helps us with that capability. So we want that higher spell damage on the front bar just to help that heal work a little better. So having a Nirnhoned here really helps. It also helps with damage. Moving on to the back bar, we have a two-handed Sloat's Greatsword infused with a Crusher enchant, and the way we apply Crusher is with Carve. Carve is a dot now, primarily, doesn't give you minor heroism, but you can use this a lot, and you can just build ultimate, or not ultimate, keep Crusher applied really well with it. Alright, now that I've shown you guys that, I am going to show you the 2 other weapons here that we have for when we're playing Stamina Damage Dealer, because this thing is primarily a tank or a damage dealer. It can be a healer, and it's pretty effective at it, but it's not going to be near as good as what some of the other races can do. So, but let's go ahead and take a look at this stuff. So we have a bow with infused weapon damage. Of course, this is going to be the back bar. Our main bar is going to be an infused greatsword with an Oblivion damage enchant. That's why I said this thing can work so well in PvE and in PvP. Because in PvE, you're going to be doing oblivion damage no matter what to the enemies. And it can really help you out when you're solo playing. But when you're playing in PvP and you want to do stuff in PvP, having this two-handed sword really helps you in just taking out the trash, as I like to say it. I did do a duel with this to find out how well it would work. And it's surprisingly a little OP. Now, the way I dueled with it was I took everything and put it into stamina and left my health the way it was, which you have like 28k unbuffed, so, or with just food. So, yeah, you're fine. And in PvP, you get another amount of health on top of that, so you actually get more health, and you still have like this 30-something K stamina. It's ridiculous. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about the skills. Again, with all of my character builds, for this one in particular, unlock all the stamina-based skills for the Necromancer. This is going to give you the greater options when you're playing solo or you're playing as like a damage dealer. Bone Tyrant, we use Pummeling Goliath. This actually helps out when you're tanking. Ruined Scythe and all this other, all these other ones. We'll get to some of these in a minute. Same thing with the Living Death. Fill in all the skills and passives, because you never know. Like, you might want to use more Living Death abilities even when you're tanking or when you're solo playing, depending on the type of play you do. In a small group play, if you're doing like a normal dungeon, taking some extra heals can really help your group, because you can self-heal the group. Excuse me. Since our primary weapons are two-handed, one-handed sword and shield and bow, that's all we're going to talk about here. Two-handed, take the abilities that are going to best reflect your ability to play. Same thing with one-handed sword and shield, but with the two-handed, make sure you get carve, and I'll show you guys why here in a minute. Sword and shield, get the skills that best reflect your ability to play again, and then the passives. Bow, same thing. As you can see here, I took a lot of the poison ones. The reason why, the poison morphs, the reason why is because Necro works really good with poison disease. And then moving on to armor, light armor, you're going to want the top 3. This also helps with the Imperial race, because the Imperial race gets 3% reduced cost and abilities. And then with this, you get another 2, so you actually get 5% reduced cost in Magicka, and 5% reduced cost in stamina with the top 2 and the bottom 1 here. The reason we take dexterity is for the extra crit capability, and the reason for athletics is the reduced dodge roll. Heavy armor, get all the passives. Now you notice I didn't unlock the skill here. The reason why is because the class skill is really good. The only reason why I would use this is for PvP. And I would probably go with the Immovable Brute, because it just gives you all this knockback, resist immunity and disabling effect immunity for 4 seconds, and it decreases the cost of your break free. Alright, Soul Magic, again, take the ones, the skills and abilities that you really like to use, but mainly get Soul Summons and Soul Lock. Moving on to the Finder's Guild, we do have all the passives and abilities unlocked here, so we can take advantage of them in different situations. Same thing with the Mage's Guild, and same thing with the Sigic Order. And then moving on to Undaunted, we have all the passives, of course, because you need these 2 passives, and we do take the skills because we can use them and take advantage of them in different situations. Like if I want to play more support, I can throw out Mystic Orbs and Sanguine Altar, or even use Inner Rage for range time. Alliance, or Alliance War, take the skills here that are going to best reflect you. And same thing with support. Take the ones that would best reflect your ability to play. Imperial Race, the reason why I chose this is mainly for the Red Diamond passive. When you deal direct damage, you heal yourself for X amount and restore X amount of magic and stamina, plus you get the 3% reduced cost and abilities. They also get extra stamina and extra health. These guys are just beasts. Moving on to Alchemy. Yes, get medicinal use. Don't be like me. And then Provisioning, Gourmand, and Connoisseur. I always forget Alchemy one. But both of those help you in basically resource management with the potions, and then with the food and drink activity. You know, being active, you can get 20 minutes extra out of them. So, all right, now let's go over the skills we have on our bars. Starting with the first skill, we have Pierce Armor. This is our primary taunt. It does do damage, and it does apply Major Fracture and Major Breach. Moving on to the next ability, we have Deep Slash. Now, a lot of people have been asking, why do you keep using Deep Slash instead of Heroic Slash? Heroic Slash is what most tanks use. This is a roleplay character, so it's designed to work for role-playing and for casual play. So we don't care if we get the Heroic Slash. Like, we honestly don't. Deep Slash applies Minor Maim to more targets. It also does damage to more targets, and it also applies the reduced movement speed to more targets. It's just a way for us to take advantage of that. So, next up we have Spike Bone Shield, and I do need to do this disclaimer because I forgot it at the beginning. This is a roleplay casual build. This is not meta in any way. So, our next ability is Spike Bone Shield, and as you can see, this thing creates a shield that absorbs 33% of your max health in over 6 seconds, and returns 38% of the direct damage you take back to the enemy. It's also a synergy that people can use to activate, and it'll apply a Bone Shield on the person who activates it, and up to 3 other friendly targets that absorbs 58% of their max health for 6 seconds. And then the next one we have here is our Super Heal, Resistant Flesh. This is such a great heal. One, it does put Minor Defile on you, so it reduces your healing received by 15%, but it heals you for a very large amount. And then on top of that, you are granted spell and physical resist equal to half the amount you healed for 3 seconds. So when you use this, it's kind of like one of those oh crap situations. What I'll do is, if I see a boss getting ready to do a big hit, I will do this and then block. That way I can get that 3%, or I can get those higher resistances for the missing health. And if it's 11k, I get like 6k resistance. And that means they gotta beat through that much more resistance to kill me. And especially with the Sunspire trial, where you get Major Fracture, Major Breach applied to you, that really helps you out. So, moving on. Next ability is Absorb Magic. This gives you a shield that absorbs 22,958. It's X amount of damage from the next spell projectile and heals you for 16% of the health. But while you have a shield equipped and this ability slotted, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 8%, and the cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. So really good for when you're tanking. Next up, we have Shield Discipline, and this is here to reinforce your shield, allowing you to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 7 seconds. Your one-handed sword and shield ability costs are reduced by 100% while active. This is a cheap ultimate, and it just gives you the ability to get that cheaper shield play out. So you can use like this ability at no cost, this ability at no cost, and this ability at no cost. Moving on to the back bars, starting with the first weapon, and this is how we keep our Crusher enchant applied, and that is Carve with our first skill. Now this does damage up front and damage over time for 10 seconds, so you actually get this, this will keep your Crusher applied 3 times. So you'll get, the first one will apply, and then it'll tick for 5 seconds, and then the next one will apply, and it'll tick for 5 seconds. And if it pulls it off, you can usually get it on the third tick, on the final tick, to reapply it again. So it does it for 3 times. But it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen every once in a while. Majority of the time, I would say. Next, we have Ruinous Eye. This is here just for damage and healing. This thing is so good. And it also sets enemies off balance. So, slice into your enemy's life force, dealing X amount of damage. Every third cast of this ability will set all enemies off balance. So if you hit 3 targets, it's going to set everyone off balance, because you're going to get 3 hits. Or it's going to be considered a third cast. I don't know why it does it. I think it might be bugged, but it does do that. Next up, We have Unnerving Boneyard. This is just for support, really, for your group, to apply Major Breach and Major Fracture to more targets. It does do 14,000 damage over 10 seconds with the Major Breach and Major Fracture. If it consumes corpses, it does more damage, and it's also a synergy. Then we have our Agony Totem. This is more group support. You place this down, it creates this totem in front of you that gives you minor protection and anyone standing within the 6 meter radius of it. 8% damage reduction after 2 seconds, instills fear in the enemies, holding them in place for 4 seconds, and then it's also a synergy. So they can activate the Pure Agony synergy, dealing X amount of damage over 5 seconds, and applying minor vulnerability to the enemy, which increases their damage taken by 8%. Then we have Beckoning Armor. This is going to be up all the time pretty much. You basically get your Major Ward, Major Resolve, increasing spell and physical resist by 5,280 for 20 seconds. And then while active, enemies that strike you with a ranged attack will be pulled to you every 3 seconds, and it creates a corpse on when it ends. Last but not least, Aggressive Warhorn. It's a given, I know. Sound of Warhorn to rally your forces, increasing you and your allies' max magicka and max stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You also gain Major Force, increasing critical damage by 15% for 9 seconds. So this applies to everybody within a 20 meter radius of you. So really, really good. Now, as you guys have seen that, we're going to go over CP real quick. Starting with the red tree, we have 56 into Ironclad. This reduces damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. 18 into Spell Shield, increasing your spell resistance by 1729. 31 into Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. 43 into Hardy, reducing your damage taken from physical poison and disease damage by 10%. 43 into Elemental Defender, reducing your damage taken from Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 10%. And then moving on over here, we do have 40 into Bastion, increasing the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing your healing received by 5%. And then 20 into Heavy Armor Focus, increasing your physical resistance by 1900 while wearing 5 pieces of heavy armor. Moving on, we have 40 into into Warlord, reducing the break free cost by 16%. 16 into Sprinter, reducing sprint cost by 16%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing bash cost by 16%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 into Mooncalf, increasing your stam recovery by 10%, and 75 into Tenacity, increasing your magic and stamina. Your fully charged heavy attacks give you by 14%. Since we are wearing heavy armor, we do get 25% more, and then we get the base of 30. So we actually get a lot out of this. Moving on over here, we have 40 into Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll costs by 16%, and 40 into Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by another 16%. Let's move on to the blue tree. 43 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. You guys are going to notice I have nothing into Elfborn, and that's because we just don't need it. Because we're not here to crit heal, we're just here to help support. Moving on, 35 into Physical Weapon Expert, increasing your light and heavy attacks done with one-handed sword and shield, two-handed, and dual wield and bow weapons by 20%, yeah, and Werewolf. And then 40 in Master at Arms, increasing our direct damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. Alright. Last but not least, 56 in the Mighty, increasing physical poison and disease damage by 12%. 56 in the Precise Strikes, increasing critical damage and critical healing with stamina abilities by 20%. And 40 into Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. And that is the CP for the Black Knight. And also, all of its other stuff. But you guys probably want to see what this thing looks like in action, so you guys know where we're going. Of course, we are going off to play in my favorite dungeon, Depths of Malatar, so we can see this thing in action and see how well it can work out in there. Now, I am going to let you guys in on a little secret right now. Depths of Malatar came with the Wrathstone DLC. It's not really a secret, but the secret comes later. But it was added with that and it is considered one of the more difficult recently added dungeons to the game. So, but here's the secret. This character is also going to be used in another video for 1-bar tanking. So,
Your note said abandoned, as in no one left alive inside.
Take it to the Imperial
And it's just to show you how you can one-bar tank with pretty much any class. If you know the class and how to play it, you can one-bar tank. Right, so, gonna get our potions ready. We're gonna go ahead and buff up our stuff, drop our agony totem. Look at that, Sloat's is going off like crazy. Oh wow, I just like spammed that, didn't I? Oh, and just to let you know, Sloat's is whenever damaging an enemy. So damaging an enemy has a 10% chance. So even your monster set can actually activate Sloat's. That's why I like Thorvikens with it. It works out so well. And if you guys still haven't noticed, I haven't even used a potion yet, because I just don't need to. This thing, it's just really nice, so put it that way. There we go. He is dead. Now we're going to go in here and we're going to play with the boss. Here, creepy critter. There he is. Look at that. He's already waiting for us. He's like, I knew you were coming. Gonna go ahead and use this so I can just sit here and spam this, and I can do that and do some other stuff. So yeah, that time I used the potion because I knew he was going to get ready to do something to me. So. But yeah, you guys can see this. I'm just gonna let him eat me. Kill me. Come on, kill me. I just want to die. Because I could sit here all day and play this guy. I really like this build. Alright, let's Waste Shrine out of here. And I know what you guys are thinking. This would be really cool as like the Death Knight. I thought the same thing. And then I said, I already got that coming out, so I don't want to use it. But that is it for the Black Knight, guys. I hope you guys liked it. It's a really cool build. And thank you to the person who suggested Sloat's and trying it out. I didn't realize how powerful it could really be. It is really awesome. And when you're using this with a two-handed, with infused Oblivion damage, and a bow with infused weapon and spell damage, and you have everything dumped into stamina, this thing is a monster. Like, this thing is scary. I would not want to run across anyone playing this build in PvE or PvP. Because this thing will just chew you alive. But that's pretty much it for the build, guys. Hope you guys liked it. And again, remember, this is a roleplay casual build. This is made for that purpose, not meta. Because I want to be clear on that. So you guys know what's coming next. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.